Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Charmley, and this is another video in the series, which obviously has been going on for a while now, on churches in the Derbyshire Peak District. Now this is the Church of All Saints, Ashover, and this building, although there's been a church here since before the Norman Conquest, this particular building was built between 1350 and 1419 by the Babington family. The Babington family would later become notorious for their involvement in the gunpowder plot, but this church, of course, is built long before that. It's a fascinating building. As you can see, it's been subject to this unfortunate tendency of the Victorians to take all the plaster off the walls. Thankfully, this is quite a light-coloured stone, but the plaster work, certainly of the walls in the nave, the aisles, chancel, was never intended to be removed. It was always supposed to be plaster work and not exposed stone. And so you'll see some evidence of that as we go around. We'll also look at the great treasures of the church. One is the font, and the others are memorials. So without further ado, let's have a look around this magnificent medieval church. So here we are, we're still at the back and at the west end, and and first of all we have the font. Now this is very unusual. It's made of lead, and it wasn't unusual for fonts made of lead. This is, of course, a lead mining area, so lead was a local resource. But it's very rare for them to have survived, because, of course, lead is something that you can melt down and use for other things. Now, we're not sure what the figures are. Probably you're looking at 12 apostles and then some. But obviously you've got these saints all the way around the outside. The church is very much, you've got these slender columns here and these thicker ones here, which tell us that the south aisle is probably a little bit earlier, and this is a bit later. But you can just see there one of the tombs at the end. It's a very big church, and it's very large because it's quite important. So we have here's the list, and most churches have this. There'll be a list of rectors. And the earliest, we know that in 1086 there was a priest here. We know 1204, a man called Ralph, who was the chaplain. But the first recorded rector is in 1268 with Simon de Markham. It goes all the way through here to 2004. I'm sure they've had them since, but this is when this is engraved. And there's a number of things to always look for in these cases, and one of them is, what about the civil wars? Well, we can see here that in 1621 Emmanuel Bourne is the rector. 1669, that's therefore after the Restoration and after the Great Ejection of 1662, and well after Obadiah Bourne, and then Samuel Bourne in 1711, and another Obadiah Bourne in 1719, followed by Lawrence Bourne in 1763. And that tells us that no one's ejected here. In fact, you've got this dynasty who are basically rectors all the way from we can see all the way from 1621 through to the 1790s. You have a Bourne in position here, which is quite unusual. You also note John Bourne Nodder in 1878, which suggests continuing Bourne influence. Here we have Christ as the Good Shepherd. Above the above the tower screen, behind that there's the vestry and the toilets, very important, is a weathercock. Now the weathercock, of course, is a type of weather vane shaped like a cockerel. This church is dedicated to St. Peter and St. Paul, and the cockerel is an emblem of St. Peter, because, of course, the Apostle Peter, when he said to the Lord Jesus, "Lord, if everyone else denies you, I'll never deny you," Jesus said, "Before the cockerel has crowed, you will deny me 3 times." And so The cockerel becomes a symbol of St. Peter and a reminder of his weakness. Again, that magnificent font dates from about 1150, and there have been lead mines here right through for a long period. According to local tradition, it was buried for safety during the Civil War in the Commonwealth, because of course lead is used for making bullets, although having seen that you've got basically this succession of rectors, I do wonder. There are only 8 rectors, of course, between 1621 and 1642, and the nodders indeed do trace their ancestry back through the Bournes. So you've got this one family. Here we have, by the door, we have Francis Parker. He, by his natural genius and great industry, became a wonderful proficient in the politer art of painting. Hence, you've got here your putty, and while one of them is tastefully draped, the other is completely stark naked. But there we are. And a winged skull below. His singular modesty, sweet disposition, strict sobriety, and ingenious conversation, joined with unwearied diligence and uncommon skill in his profession, made him well esteemed by the best judges and rendered him acceptable wherever he was employed. He was born at Knott Cross in this parish, died at Nottingham, November the 29th, in the 39th year of his age, Anno Domini 1713, and by his own orders his remains were deposited in this church, and by the care of his executors this monument was erected to his memory. He's not a well-known painter today, but clearly quite popular in his day. So we proceed up the broad south aisle, and at the end we have one of these magnificent alabaster tomb chests. You can see at the bottom we have a couple of images of saints. You can see St. Catherine there with her wheel, and then you have a bishop, and on either side obviously you've got members of the family. This is to Thomas Babington and his wife Edith. Edith was the sister of Sir Anthony Fitzherbert, who was judge, and this dates from 1511, which is when Edith died. What's interesting here is the fact that they are painted. Now, this is actually what these alabaster memorials would have looked like. That the hair and clothes and accoutrements would have been painted. So we see them today in their essentially bare alabaster, but that's not what they were intended to look like. They were intended to look like this, and the figures on the bottom have not been painted. You can see that these are, apart from the saints on the end, these will be family members. These will be the children. They're partly obscured by the organ here. We've got a piscina there and a corbel. We have St. Christopher there, and this is a window in memorial and loving memory of John Lee of Wilkin House, who died at Brooklyn, USA on May the 2nd, 1915. Now, above the memorial we have there, obviously there was a brass, it's been removed. There's the squint. Now, the function of the squint internally is this, that there would have been a side altar here, and the priest at the side altar, because of course before the Reformation at the Mass, the priest stood in front of the altar, which was against the wall, against the east wall, with his back to the congregation, and he would lift up the host, and that was the point. Even today, to attend Mass means that you've been there to see the elevation of the host. And what would happen is, if you'd have multiple altars, and the priests at the different altars would try to lift up the host at the same time, and so a priest standing here would look through the squint and he'd see the priest at the high altar, and he would imitate him, so that the two would be in sync, as it were. So here we are, there's all these children here. We can see now here, because he's a member of the legal profession, he is wearing his legal robes as a judge, not armour, which is helpful. And here we have, around the bottom, their children. You can see the girls in their fashionable headdresses, the fashionable gable headdresses, and the men in their long tunics, and the gentlemen are holding shields that would have been painted with their arms. So these are, I would suspect, the daughters of the family, and then they're depicted with their husbands. And one of them, the one here, has two husbands because one of them would have died young. And here we have this wonderful eagle lectern, which is from 1883, it's dated. The screen is 15th century, so this is pre-Reformation. You can just see up there, that's where the rood loft stairs came out. They still do come out, but they now come out into what has been described as a shelf of air. The royal arms are dated 1793. We proceed then through this rather lovely, very, very lovely screen into the chancel. And again, the walls have been stripped of plaster, which is not ideal, not what ought to be done. Here we have a Nodder family memorial. You can see a couple of tomb recesses now without tombs in them. These square-headed windows that tell us that quite late 15th century windows. We've got the embroidered altar cloth here. Here we have the Bourne Memorials, because of course if the Bournes does look here as you're looking very largely at members of the rectory family here. We are looking back through, you can see there the squint, some organ pipes over here. The console, I suspect, would have been there but has been moved. And in fact those pipes are fake, and there's actually a room up there. But of course those pipes are fake. Back through here again, and here we have the pulpit. This is an 18th century pulpit, would have been a part of a three-decker, but the three-decker has been dismantled, leaving just this. Looking west, we can see the old roof line before the clerestory was added. Here we have some of the members of the Dakin family, from all the way, in fact, through from 1581 through to 1720, which is quite impressive. And obviously the organ has been removed and replaced with a modern electric one, hasn't it? This is the Lady Chapel, the side chapel. The Reredos do this in remembrance of me. I wonder if it wasn't originally behind the high altar but has been shifted. The entrance to the rood stairs has been blocked off for very good reason. Got a little face up there. And this is, again, broad aisle. We've got these nice corbels up there supporting the ceiling, and they're looking all the way across. And at the back there you've got a modern kitchen which opens out, which is a good thing. So there we are, the interior. And it's very good to have a look at this tomb and say, this is what these would actually look like. We're so used to them being just bare stone that we forget that they were not made that way. So there we are. That's the inside of St. Peter and St. Paul, Ashover. Let's have a look around the outside, as we've got a wonderful day to do it in. So here we are outside at Ashover, and again you can see this magnificent 14th, 15th century building with its clerestory, its tower with a great spire on top. We'll obviously have a better look at the spire from a different location. And it's all very much of a period, it's all very much one family is paying to build this. It's quite typical of these later medieval buildings. So as we have a look around, I'll point out some of the interesting features on the outside now of the building. So here we are, and just have a look up at that spire. Yeah, quite a simple one, no crockets, just those openings in it, and you see one of the gargoyles sticking out there. Nice lead roof on the porch. Nice priest's door with that little OG door, OG top, and just over there, that's the old grammar school. I often find them associated with the church. It's not used as a school anymore. The school has moved elsewhere. There would have been probably a statue there before the Reformation. Here's the east window. Now, an interesting point here, the other building that you often find near the church will be the village pub, the inn, and this inn is the Crispin Inn, and it's named because it's founded by a man who fought at the Battle of Agincourt on St. Crispin's Day. And St. Crispin's Day, that memorable day. So there's the War Memorial. So the pub is founded by a veteran at Agincourt. One of those nice 18th century tombs there with the little rather rustic carvings on it. So there we are, that's the south side faces the village street, hence the vehicle just about to go past. There we are. The north side, of course, as is quite common, faces away from the street because normally the south side is the main entrance. You'll see here it's a bit plainer. We haven't got the same embattled parapet here. There's the vestry. There's the east end. You can just see up there where the Sanctus bell would have been hung. Actually, there's a bell hung there, but that, of course, the Sanctus bell is rung at the Mass, and it signals the elevation of the host. So there we are. There's the old grammar school. I think that's now it's either a private house or it's the village hall. But very impressive building. So we process around the building here. It's a very picturesque village, Ashover, one of these larger villages. It's got a couple of pubs, not just the Crispin. And here we have the north doorway. Now the north doorway is there's still a door there, and again you've got this very nice OG cap with a little bit of tracery in it. Looking up then at the spire, that wonderful blue sky on this lovely, very lovely, very sunny. So, but this camera does not like my pointing it straight at the sun, and I'm sure you don't like me doing it either. So we process, all the way here. This is all the way to the north-west corner of the churchyard, which is where there was a door from the old rectory, and of course the rectory was a family home for generations of the same family. Again, you'd look up there, you've got these lovely gargoyles, that beautiful spire with a replacement weathercock at the top, and little OG top of the window in the tower. So it's all very, very, very magnificent. Now here we've got something that's always quite interesting to have a look at, and that's a medieval stone coffin. You can see the lid there with this one. Now this coffin has been used as a planter, so it's got earth in it, but you can see that's where the head would be, and that's where the body would be. And you cover it up with that, and then you bury the whole thing, hopefully. So medieval stone coffins, they're relatively common. You can find them in quite a lot of places, but they're always very interesting. And again, a reminder of older burial practices. So we're back here now at the south side, and you can see there's the west end of the porch with that wonderful sundial above it. Prism type sundial. So we'll say a few closing words. You see before that you've got this 17th century door there at the bottom, which of course meant that people could get into the tower to ring the bells without having to go through the church. Doesn't appear to be used these days, and quite right too. Anyway, well, I'll just say some closing words to camera. Well, so there we go, St. Peter and St. Paul, Ashover. A magnificent building. Have I got the dedication right? If I haven't, I'll just... No, I do apologise. At the beginning of the video I got it right and said All Saints, and I said St. Peter and St. Paul several times. I got confused with the last church I was looking at, which it wasn't open, so no video of it yet. But no, All Saints Ashover, this magnificent building that the Babington family built, and still stands today. It's still a place of worship. Great example of this Peak District architecture. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you.